You are eternal, you are timeless, and you are ageless. Let me explain to you why. So last week I made an episode on time does not exist. And I got a lot of response because the video is actually a response to another video. So it's looping and linking together, and I'm excited to share more insight on why time does not exist and why we are eternal and timeless and ageless. Today, I am actually responding to another person's comment on that video, on that YouTube video. If you haven't watched that video, I'll put a link in the description under YouTube. And so you can watch that one. But watch this video first, then you can go back to watch that one. So let me share this viewers. I'm just going to read a comment to you guys. It says, without time, movement will not be possible as speed equals distance divided by time. So if time equals zero, distance equals zero, in our realm or bubble of existence, time certainly exists. Tell my aging face time does not exist. So what this person basically means, he does not agree when I say time does not exist, and he using his age as evidence. So first of all, the key element here is time only exists in the lower dimension, which is our third dimension. We can escape this matrix programming, okay, by ascending ourselves into a higher dimension, okay? So my response to this person is, sure, but let's say that we minus the movement in your equation, then there are no speed, no distance, therefore there are no time. Ask yourself this question: who was or is the one telling that your face is aging? Was it you, or is it a you in the reflection of the mirror? So are you just an observer, or are you observed? That being said, you are observing, we call it time observed, and not the experience of it. So that means there's no movement. So let me explain this. So basically, the person, I say, for example, I'm using my phone as a mirror. So basically, if I'm looking myself in the mirror here, right? And if I look at myself in the mirror and I notice I age, but am I observing myself, or am I the object which you observed? This can only happen in a higher dimension because, as I mentioned in that last episode, the book, right? If you're in the character in the book, then the character will, of course, will have to go page by page, which is time. But if we are in a reader perspective, then that means we know the book is finished. The entire book is right in front of us from cover to cover, right? And that's why the time does not exist in the reader perspective, but the character in the book does. So in this case, the mirror effect, if I'm looking myself old, I'm actually observing myself in a higher dimension and observed myself in a third dimension that, oh, I look old. I became old. Does that make sense? So your consciousness is actually not in your mind, the subconscious in this third dimension. And this is related to quantum physics. So if you're interested on quantum physics, I'm actually want to invite you guys to join me on my school community. And the school community that I'm building right now is called Quantum Conscious Portal. And it's going to talk about a lot of this type of topic, time leap, quantum leap, and what is this quantum physics, quantum mechanics. I'm blending like science side plus the spiritual side. I want to build a community that we can share this kind of experience, stories, and questions. And some people might have quote unquote issues, problems, and I will share what I learned from this past few years and share with everyone in the group, in the community. So if you are interested, I'll put a link in the description on YouTube and on in the show note for the audio platform. Okay, so hop onto those links, and the enrollment is pretty easy. You just talk to the AI, Jenny. She, she will help you answer some questions if you do have some question about spirituality, or if you just want to join the group, join the community, and she will guide you through that. Okay, and I'm gonna share what's quantum physics. Quantum physics, if you guys heard of double-slit experience, and the definition of quantum physics is the science behind how the universe works at its smallest scale. What does that smallest scale means? Because as we know, in our third reality, third dimension reality, we have macro and micro, right? Our economy, we have a micro, we have macro, and everything is reflect of each other, and it's a polarity. One of the law of universe is the law of polarity. It's two-sided but same coins. So that's what it means by in a smaller scale. Okay, and study the behavior of atoms and subatomic particles and their interact with the matters and energy. Okay, so everything in our reality is energy. Everything you saw around us is made of energy and matter, right? And of course, energy comes first, then the matter. The wave collapse into the reality. I have a diagram I want to share with you guys so I can explain to you guys more. Here we go. So atoms, subatomic particles, that's including protons, neutrons, and electrons. And the electrons is not solid. So before it observed, it's act as a wave of possibility, which is a wave. And once we observe, then the particles collapse into a form. And that form is based on the observer, which is you. So that's why all our thoughts, our energy is creating our reality, because your thoughts and your belief, your perceptions is collapsing that wave into this solid matter form. And that's what you see in front of you. So this reflects to the famous double-slit experience. So when the particle is shooting through those slits, and on the other side, the slit should be react to the slits, right? Align with the slits. But without anyone observe, actually the particle is actually everywhere on the other side of the slit. And when someone observes, the particle actually collapses into how the scientist is observing. The very basic, interesting analogy I can use is if you have iPhone, right? So iPhone right now have this function like when you're not looking, the screen is actually black. You see what happened just now? So when you're looking at your phone, actually the phone can sense somebody's observing. So the screen kind of collapse into what you are projecting onto the screen from your conscious. And or another analogy I can use is if you play video games, when you're playing your character in the video games, when your video game is looking at this way, and anything behind that character is not rendering until the character turns their head around, then backgrounds or every scenes that the character's supposed to see, it collapse into a form. So that being said, back to that comment. So this viewer was using his age to show evidence of time. And yes, I agree. Age can be shown as evidence of time exists. But remember, that only happens in the third dimension, in the lower dimension. But when you go on a higher dimension, because our conscious is actually, it's not located in our body, it's actually in the higher dimension. When we have the consciousness aware, then you are aware that your conscious is actually the one who's observing that you're aging. And the you in the third dimension, in the lower dimension, is the one, is the object that was observed. Okay, so hope this explained this viewer's comment and why and how I explain into that, and the reason how I replied to him. This is a longer version of my reply. If you guys have similar questions or any comments or any feedback, and I even have people comment to me their experience, and I love to read them. So if you have anything, any thoughts, please feel free to make that comment. If you're on the audio platform, please feel free to follow and write your comment as a review, and I will also maybe answer on the show here. Okay, until next time, in our third dimension, please stay safe out there and peace within.